Assalamu alaikum girls. Today we are continuing chapter 2 which was on input output devices, and we were done with manual input devices and we are now doing direct data entry input devices. So let's see what this is all about. In direct data entry devices, you already saw how we have things like barcode scanners, magnetic swipe readers. You saw how these were direct data entry devices. We are going to further learn few more direct data entry devices today, and we will try to understand where they are used, what their advantages and disadvantages are. As the core success criteria for today, you must be able to describe the use, advantage and disadvantage of various direct data entry devices. As an advanced task, you must be able to answer the past paper questions that you will be seeing during the lesson today. As an extension, you could work on making short notes on the 7 types of direct data entry devices that have been discussed this week. As a starter for today, you have 2 pictures in front of you. Think which are the methods used to represent information here. So you have done this in the last lesson and you know that this black strip is actually a magnetic stripe and this one is a chip and pin. The 5th device we are learning today, its short form is called MICR, and MICR stands for Magnetic Ink Character Reader. The magnetic ink character reader is actually a device that reads the characters printed using a special magnetic ink. This magnetic ink is often found on the bottom part of checks, and these characters, when the reader reads it, it can be converted into a form which can be understood by the computer. So you will see that MICR or magnetic ink character recognition reader is used to process bank checks. So some of you might have seen checks written by your father. On the bottom you can notice that this MICR characters are there and this is read using the MICR reader. The advantage is that you don't have to manually enter any text, so there is no human error. Nobody can alter the characters. This is a special ink, and even if somebody writes over it, because it's a special ink, the character reader can still read it. Disadvantage is that it is more expensive and only a limited amount of characters can be read by it. An exam question on MICR is to describe how it is used to read details from the check. You can have a look at the sample answer here. It says that the magnetic ink on the check passes over a magnet in the MICR reader, and the MICR is able to read the magnetic signals given out by this magnetic ink character, and that is how the reader reads the magnetic ink characters. The next reader we are going to study, its short form is OMR. OMR stands for Optical Mark Reader. The OMR stands for Optical Mark Reader, and it reads optical marks. These are marks written with a pen or pencil, and the optical mark reader scans it from multiple choice exams, surveys, lottery tickets and so on. You would have seen this at some point of time, or you will now come across it now that you are in IG, where there is question number 10 in the multiple choice and it has options A, B, C, D. So you as a student will circle and shade and mark this one option that you think is correct, and this paper will then pass through the OMR reader, optical mark reader, which will read the optical marks on it. This is mainly used for MCQs, surveys and lottery tickets. What is the advantage? It's a very fast method of inputting data. It is more accurate than OCR. We will study OCR soon, and there is less chance of errors. But the disadvantage is that it can read only shaded areas, not text or numbers. So an exam conductor in this way can only be an MCQ, and the forms have to be completed very correctly to avoid mistakes. So the shading has to be very perfectly correct and not have any marks in the other areas. For your science subject options, when you have an IGCSE exam, you will use an MCQ question paper that uses OMR. So it will look something like this. I have a sample exam question here for you again. There is a student whose exam answer key consists of boxes or lozenges which the student shades in order to indicate their choice of answer. So now describe what are the drawbacks of using OMR or optical mark recognition. The drawback of using OMR is that if you don't fill in the marks completely or not dark enough, they may not be read correctly. Also, OMR is only suitable for recording one selection of answer, and you cannot have like short answer questions and long answer questions and so on. And as you see, this special exam answer form needs to be prepared. This can be expensive, and due to its structure, the only kind of question you can have is also multiple choice. The next direct data entry device we are learning is an OCR. OCR is the short form for optical character reader. This is different from OMR because here it says mark reader. OCR stands for reading characters. So as you can know, this can not just read any mark, it can read all characters. What an OCR does is it scans text from the hard copies and converts it into an editable form, which is then used and edited in a range of softwares. So you would have seen this at the self-immigration system in airports, or sometimes you can find, you would have seen a pen that is used to read Quran. You pass the pen over the letters of the Quran and it will read it. So all of this uses OCR, optical character reader. The advantage is that it is a faster method of data entry compared to manually typing this data, and there is less chance of errors. But the disadvantage is that it is not as accurate as OMR because these are characters and not just marks, right? And this OCR also cannot read handwriting. It has to be very properly printed text for OCR to be able to read it. If you have used the e-gate in Hamad International Airport, when you place your QID or passport on the scanner, it is recognized by the e-gate using OCR, optical character reader. Now we have a question here that is also from our past paper, where it asks you to compare the use of MICR, OCR, OMR, barcode scanner and keyboard to enter data. So this is a compare kind of question. Compare means you have to talk about all of them, comparing them with each other. A sample answer can be the following. The MICR, which is magnetic ink character reader, is used to process checks in a bank. We saw that earlier today, where the characters are written with special ink and scanned using MICR to identify who the check belongs to. The OCR is used to scan text into an editable form. It is usually used in immigration terminals and so on. Keyboard is used to enter data manually. This is another we had to compare. But if you type a passport number by hand using keyboard, it would take longer and there is chance of error. So OCR is better for that. OMR is good to scan pencil marks on exam paper or school registers, but if this mark is not clear, then you can have a chance of error again. And both OCR, OMR, MICR, all of them require special equipment which can end up being more expensive than using a keyboard. The barcode scanner is actually used at POS stations, point of sale terminals, to scan items which have a barcode that will give the details of that product. And again, if a barcode scanner is not available, you have to type using a keyboard. That takes more time and can lead to human error. So this is a complete comparison between all these 5 data entry devices. Now let's think. There are barcodes on textbooks that you buy for your IG, and also there are barcodes placed on the textbook by the librarian. Let's think what data will be stored in this barcode. Data that can be stored on the barcode, which is on the books in our library, could be the number of the book, its unique number, the ISBN number, and probably when you buy a book, it will have the barcode might contain its price, the date it was written, and so on. Now, based on today's discussion, let's try to complete the plenary for the day. You have a crossword in front of you where we have some clues for what words go down and across, and we need to fill it in using the different devices that we've learned so far. So, what is used to read multiple choice and lottery ticket marks? That is OMR, isn't it? So, down will be OMR. What is used to read bank checks? The MICR, which is 2 down, which means here MICR. What is a secure method of payment? A secure method of payment is always chip and pin, because you are entering a pin number that authorizes and secures your card. So, chip and pin. Scanning an item at the point of sale terminal, we just talked about it. It is using a barcode scanner. Across can be used to gain entry. So this means any type of entry. So for example, entry into a hotel room is by a magnetic stripe card. A magnetic stripe reader will be the answer for number 1. What uses radio frequency signals? You learned this in the last live lesson. That will be a RFID. It will be an RFID tag. So RFID goes here. Paying for items in a shop is done using a POS terminal. So POS goes here. And scanning, converting text into an editable format, we just did it today. Editable format, you will get it from an OCR. So number 4 is OCR. Make sure, girls, you learned all of these short forms and long forms, their uses, advantage and disadvantage very properly, as this is one of the topics very frequently asked in the examination. That's all for today, girls. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. Assalamu alaikum.